This is a continuation of our last session, which is more, and this is more of the nitty-gritty details on ASHP's mid-year clinical meeting. We have two presenters tonight. We have Jessica Henson, who is the PGY1 community resident at the WVU School of Pharmacy, and we have Allison DaCosta, who is the PGY1 pharmacy practice resident at WVU Healthcare. If you'll notice up on the control panel, please hit mute on your microphone so that way we do not get any feedback. And then if you have a question, then you can just speak up by unmuting yourself and talking to the presenters. Without further ado, I turn it over to you, Allison.
All right. Hi, everybody. So I'm Allison, and I'm one of the PGY1s at WVU, and Jesse will be joining us shortly, hopefully. So we're just going to talk to you about getting ready for mid-year. So I just graduated pharmacy school, a couple months ago. So it definitely was not long ago that I was in all your positions. So hopefully I can be some help and sort of put you at ease a little bit because it is coming right around the corner. Let me just see how I can advance this. All right, there we go. So getting ready for Anaheim. The countdown begins. Hopefully you guys are excited, not too nervous. So between now and mid-year, we've got a couple more weeks. I think the most important thing to do is make a prioritized list of programs. And that's what I'm doing right now, looking for PGY2s too. So really look through programs that you think you might be interested and try to put them in order of how interested you are in them, how excited you are to learn about them. Personally, I went to mid-year last year with about 25 programs that I was interested in and wanted to look at. And I know it's hard and overwhelming to try and pick out 25 programs out of the hundreds that exist. So, obviously if you have a geographic preference, I would start with that. If you want a small versus big hospital, if you want to be in a city versus not, those are sort of good ways to start looking at them. And also the size of the program. If you're looking for a smaller program versus a bigger program, it's really kind of like looking for college all over again. You sort of have broad ideas of what you think you're interested in, and then you want to get more details. So what I did, and I'll show you an example, is I made a spreadsheet of all the programs I was looking at, and that way I could compare all of the features of every program, like all on one spreadsheet. So it made it easy for me, and I could sort it and based on who I was most interested in or less interested in and color code it and stuff like that. So I would definitely recommend making a spreadsheet of all your programs. And then record which showcase each program will be at. I believe that this is already posted on the mid-year website, and it will give you the booth number for every program. So I would also definitely make yourself a map for each showcase, and that comes back to your prioritized list. So put your programs which programs are most important for you to get to. So put them in order, circle them on the floor plan. You can print out the floor plan and use it as a map to really lead you through the showcase so that you're most efficient. And Jesse will get into some more of the details of the showcase later. But this is really just in terms of preparing for mid-year between now and when you get there. And finally, I would start working on a list of general questions to ask, and I would make a separate list for questions to ask the resident that you speak to and questions to ask the program director. So this is an example of what my spreadsheet looked like last year. So every program was on its own row, and of course I used WVU as an example. So I put the name of the program, the city, their booth number at mid-year, so I just made that up, but whatever booth they're going to be at, their RPD's name, and the number of residents they have, because that was sort of important to me. I wanted to go to a medium-sized program. I knew I didn't want to be the only resident. The number of beds the hospital has to remind you of how big of a hospital it is. You might include there if it's a community versus an academic hospital. The salary, honestly, was not an important factor for me picking. I think most programs are pretty comparable, so but I put it on there just anyways. And then teaching, what kind of teaching they offered, that was something important to me, if they had a certificate and what kind of opportunities you have. Ambulatory care was something that was also important to me, whether it was longitudinal or block or what kind of clinics they had. And then a pluses column and a minuses column. So there I would just write notes to myself, like a positive is that they have a great teaching program. A negative is, I don't know, if they don't have transplant rotation. Just things like that that come up while I'm searching through the programs. And that sort of just helps you organize it and remember all the features of the program. And I'd encourage you to make those columns, you know, whatever is most important to you. Like if you really want to go somewhere that has some great pediatric rotations, make that a column and write in that column, yes or no, do they have pediatric? So here's some sample questions for a resident. I would ask them specifically, tell me about such and such rotation. So if you're really interested, like I went to Midyear thinking I was interested in internal medicine. So I would specifically ask the current residents, how is your internal medicine rotation? And honestly, that really helped me cross those places off my list. You know, I got some feedback that, oh, it wasn't great, or oh, we actually just lost our preceptor, so we're sort of in the middle of getting a new preceptor. So if there's a rotation that's really important to you at that place, ask specifically how it was. If you're looking at going out of state, ask, how is the transition? You know, what did they do to help you with that? If you're looking at programs for the teaching certificate, definitely ask about the specifics of the certificate. Every certificate is different. There's no standard requirements across programs. So ask how involved it is and what kinds of things you get to do and what you have to do. Ask the resident, why did you choose this program? That's a very telling question. And although I hate to ask this question, it is also very telling to ask, what don't you like about this program? Because no matter what, there's no perfect program. So, you know, asking just what they think the positives and negatives are. And then I think it's really important to ask, how important are pharmacy services to the other healthcare providers? So how much are you dependent on? That question will give you a whole lot of information on just the practice model and how involved you'll be in care and what kinds of things you get to do. So I think that that question is also really important to ask. Questions for an RPD are going to be a little bit different. So I would ask them, what qualities make someone a good candidate for your program? Honestly, I think that that question is really important and also very telling of what they're looking for and if you think you would be a good fit for that. How flexible is the schedule? So it's definitely important to ask, you know, if I'm considering changing rotations or if my interests change, how hard is it to change my rotations during the year? And then finally, what's the greatest challenge that residents usually face during the year? Also very telling. You'll be surprised what kind of answers you can get from these that you wouldn't expect. RPDs will be very honest with you, and as will residents, because we want to find students who are going to be a good fit for our program. So in general, you'll find that people are going to be very honest with you. You just have to ask the right questions to get the kind of information you want. So start brainstorming right now and make yourself a list of questions to ask RPDs and residents. So
I'm going to stop you real quick. I'm going to hold on just 1 second. There is somebody who is not muted who is bringing a lot of feedback through. So can you make sure up in the control panel, make sure that the little microphone is not green, that it's gray, please. Thank you.
Alrighty. So between now and mid-year, what do you have to do? So we don't want it to be a mad rush the week of mid-year. You know, it's right after Thanksgiving. Like, you don't need to be rushing around a few days before and be more stressed out. So I recommend trying to get on this this little list as soon as you can. So make sure you have your clothes ready. Have a couple suits, of course, females and males. So if you want to bring suits. Comfortable shoes, really important. Honestly, you're going to be on your feet a lot, walking around a lot, skiing a lot. So make sure your feet are going to be comfortable. Even buy some inserts for your shoes if you have to. Whatever you have to do, test them out. It will make your day miserable if your feet are hurting. An appropriate bag is something that I know I didn't think of until like the day before I left for midyear, and I was scrambling to find like a nice black bag and not my giant bright colored Vera Bradley bag to bring around with me. So you definitely want like a nice neutral colored bag that will hold all your stuff for the day. So just think about that in advance. Buy some paper to print your CVs out. Make sure you have that all sorted out. Obviously, you want to have your CVs finalized before mid-year and get them all printed. And get your business cards. Order those now. That way you have them. So these are all just things to do and think about so that you're not scrambling a few days before mid-year. Don't forget. So this is a picture of my one roommate and I, all of the food that we brought to mid-year last year. So I made fun of a little bit, but I was told, make sure you bring plenty of food. And you know what? We honestly ate just about all of that because we were just always, you know, running around and didn't really have time to sit down for a full lunch. So we would eat protein bars and snacks and stuff like that. And on the plane, of course. So pack plenty of food. Don't be shy. You'll probably want to pack a computer or iPad. I think it's helpful when you're back at your hotel at night to sort of be able to look, and if you want to look into a few more programs, look at their websites, remind yourself of who the RPG is or who the residents are, stuff like that. That would definitely be helpful. Bring something fun to do on the plane. Don't be looking at mid-year stuff the whole plane ride. Take a break. Like, you're going to California, enjoy it a little bit. So bring some magazines, a book, something enjoyable to do on your plane ride. Don't make it all about mid-year. That being said, I did bring blank thank you notes to get started on my trip home. So while I was waiting around in the airport for a while, like on a layover, I was writing some thank you notes just to get them out of the way, not because you necessarily have to right away, but it was just nice to, while it was fresh in my mind, like get some of them done with. And Tide to Go, I think, is completely crucial because if for me, you will spill coffee on you at some point, and Tide to Go is great at getting out coffee. So if you've never seen it, it's like this little stick you can buy at CVS, and it gets out your stains really quickly. So I'd probably grab some of that. Okay, so mid-year conduct, what to do, what not to do. So do get your sleep. Have fun, enjoy yourself, go out for some nice dinners, but get your sleep. These days are long and exhausting. So always dress appropriately your entire trip, and this includes when you're walking around the hotel. Like, you do not want to walk down the hallway, you know, to your friend's room to visit them wearing inappropriate pajamas because you don't know who's staying in the room across from you. It's a small area where there are lots of pharmacists, lots of directors, lots of other students, all staying within the same little area. So you're bound to see someone else from mid-year. So just be aware of that. Don't go down to the breakfast bar in your pajamas. Like, you don't have to be completely decked out, but just be appropriate. And also along those lines, make sure you act appropriately at all times. You can absolutely have fun, enjoy yourself, but be appropriate, because when you're going out for dinner or you're going out for drinks, you're bound to see other pharmacists there. I mean, we literally invade the area for these couple of days. So you're going to see other pharmacists and possible directors there, programs that you might have talked to the day before and they might recognize you, or programs you're talking to the next day. So just be on good behavior. And what not to do, don't talk bad about programs ever. Keep that for behind closed doors, or just keep it in your head, because you never know. It's a small, small world. So just don't say bad things about other programs, because you're bound to be heard. Don't make it a competition. So you're going to see other students from your same school, from your class. They're probably looking at the same programs as you, or some of the same. It's okay. It's just, don't make it a competition. You know, it's a match. it's meant to make the best fit for everybody, so there's really no need to try and beat other people out and be competitive about it. You know, it's going to happen. You're going to be applying for the similar programs, but just try and put that aside. And also don't monopolize anyone's time. So pay attention to verbal cues. If they start sort of looking away or looking at their watch, then you know you may be taking up a little too much of their time. So it's busy. Everyone has a lot to do, so just be aware of that. All right, and now I'm going to hand it over to Jessie, who I believe is on the line now, and she's going to get into sort of more details about Showcase and the match.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessie Hinson, and I am the current community PGY1 resident with West Virginia University School of Pharmacy. And my practice site is an independent pharmacy called Waterfront Family Pharmacy. As Allison said, I'm going to get a little bit into the specifics of the showcase. This picture here is a picture I took last year at the Residency Showcase at Midyear. And you can kind of see it's a crush of people. So it can be a little overwhelming if you don't prepare yourself appropriately. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is what to do before the showcase, which some of this is going to overlap with what Allison has talked about. Let's see. Allison, could you advance the slide? Sorry. There we go. Before the showcase. So the first thing you're going to do is prioritize your programs. You really need to have a game plan when you go into the showcase because it's a large venue. So make a list of programs you want to talk to. Make a list of their priority to you. So try to hit the programs that are important to you first because you may run out of time depending on how many programs you're going to try to speak to. Know where the booths are located beforehand. You can get maps online of where everybody's at, and there's usually a large map located right outside of the showcase entrance. So make sure that you look at that, know where the booths are that you want to talk to, so that you're not scrambling to try to find them during the actual just few hours that you have to find them. Don't plan this list with your friends. Midyear is really fun and you're going to spend a lot of time with your friends and you may even be interested in similar programs. But this time is really for you to figure out what you're going to do for the next year. So don't hinge that on what your friends are doing. Make a plan on where you're going to meet after the showcase is over so that you each can get what you need to get out of the showcase. There's an online residency directory. If you Google it, it's on the ASHP website. And that's a great starting resource for finding basic information about the programs, including what kind of programs they are, what their salaries may be, where they're located. Just keep in mind that this list may be a little outdated. For your game plan, don't time crunch. The venues are really big. So make sure that if you think you may be talking to too many programs, again, that you prioritize that list and make sure that you know who you want to talk to first in case somebody gets cut off. Brainstorm questions. Allison talked a little bit about this. Make sure that you have different questions, whether you're talking to a resident or preceptors or residency program directors. Really think what's important to you about the program. I know Allison gave some examples, but really make sure that it's things that you're interested in. And then before you ask these questions, make sure that you have looked up these programs' websites. Make sure that you know the basic information. If you ask a lot of questions that they have available just out there and they know that that information is available, you may seem disinterested, and that's not, of course, the goal of the showcase. Update your CV. That's kind of a given, but one of those things you need to be looking at now. Make sure it's completely up to date, including any recent activities you've done. Make sure that you have someone look over it before you go to midyear, because, I mean, we look at these things so often that, you know, they start to haze and you know what it should say, so maybe you're not catching any errors or any inconsistencies. And sometimes it's just good to get feedback from people who have had established CVs for a while for things and like tips that they might have advice on. Allison touched on business cards. You should be getting those ready about this time just to make sure they're printed. Make sure that you review for corrections. My personal kind of horror story was I actually started handing out business cards at midyear last year and realized the email address on my card was incorrect. So make sure that you really scrutinize those when you get them printed. And then professional folder, I know Allison talked a little bit about bringing a decent bag. You don't want to be carrying too much junk around at the showcase. So I carried around a pad folio, kind of like the image there. My school sold them before we went. It doesn't have to be that fancy. It just has to be something professional looking. So if it's a plain black folder, or ladies, if you're going to carry like a nice clean looking handbag, you will see people carrying around the free bags they give you at Midyear, which are usually like neon green and really obnoxious and stuffed with stuff from the expo. You know, leave all that outside the door. Don't bring that in with you. Make sure that it looks professional. And this is just a good thing too, to stash things you're going to collect. You're going to get business cards, and you're going to get brochures. So it's good to kind of stash those away so that you're not just holding a bunch of stuff when you're talking to programs. So during the showcase, make sure that you collect a business card from everybody that you speak to. After leaving each booth, just jot a few notes on the back of that business card about what you spoke to that person about. This will help you write better thank you notes, and it'll really help with your letters of intent down the line as well, just to have a little bit of a reminder about what you spoke to that booth about. Have your CVs readily available. Some programs place more emphasis on CVs at the showcase. I've talked to some residency program directors who say literally they just collect them and throw them away afterwards. But some people do use them for pre-screening, so just assume that everybody wants one to be safe, and if they are collecting them, make sure that you give yours in. If you have references available upon request on your CV printed at the end, it's kind of a popular thing to do. Make sure that you have references available. It's just kind of a good thing to do. If you don't have references ready available, don't have that section on your CV. Make sure you sign in at each booth. All of the booths will have sign-in sheets they usually collect your name and usually your email address. Some programs use these sign-in sheets for like a point system for when they're evaluating who they're going to interview, and signing in at Midyear shows a level of interest that some people take into consideration. So make sure that you sign those sheets so that they know that you not only attended but that you took the time to visit them. And then take a few minutes after each booth. It's kind of overwhelming and it's kind of a crush. Make sure that you step back and kind of absorb what you talked about. Make sure that, on the back of the business cards that you documented everything that you wanted to. It's not a time to write extensive notes, but just jot down a few ideas. No good comes of this experience if you can't remember your impressions from the booth that you talked to. And then, like I said, to make it brief, only take a couple minutes. After the showcase, you're going to take more time to reflect. So that brings us into after the showcase. The first thing we're going to do, as I mentioned, is reflect. Take a few minutes, go back over your notes about the programs that you spoke with, go back over the notes you wrote on the back of your business cards and expand on your own note-taking system. I had a notebook and just kind of listed programs. Talk about what you talked about, make a pro-con list, including impressions that you had of the program, opportunities that you may be excited or that they offer, impressions of the current residents. This is something that some people don't think of, but you'll definitely see a difference with the enthusiasms of residents from different booths. I had one booth I visited in particular where it was very obvious none of the residents got along, and that was something that I took note of. Other residents, you'll see that they work very closely together, and there's a good team environment, and that's something to make note of. So that's really important to notice. And then if you're borderline about a program, if you weren't really sure what you felt, make sure that you write that down as well, not only to decide whether or not you want to apply to that program, but maybe it would swing a good or a bad way if you did get an interview invite and you can make that final decision. So that's all good things to kind of go over and make sure that you have good notes on for moving forward with your application process. Reception invites, I was only invited to one reception. I'm not sure how popular this is, but some program will hand you an invite to go to their school's reception. I'm not sure what schools are all on the line, but a lot of the schools will have receptions where they meet for a couple hours and they have hors d'oeuvres and drinks, and the alumni can come and current students and residents, and sometimes they will bring in potential residency candidates to these receptions and kind of a good networking opportunity. I obviously attend the reception if you're invited, especially if it's a program you're interested in. Make sure you find the person who invited you and kind of let them show you around and introduce you to people that they feel would be beneficial. These are really good opportunities to speak with these people in a more kind of intimate setting. Receptions are still busy, but they're not chaotic like the showcase is. So again, it's a little bit more relaxed. You can have a little bit of food. But again, Allison talked a lot about conduct. Remember your conduct when you're there. A lot of times there's alcohol available. Make sure that you're not embarrassing yourself in those situations as well. And then thank you notes. I typically advise to write those when you get home. Allison talked about maybe starting them on the plane if it's on your mind. That can be a good idea too. Each one of these notes you want to have a personal touch. That's where the business cards come in. You can kind of bring up something you were excited to talk to them about and thank them for talking to you. You want to keep these brief and not make them excessive. Remember, this is just a small appreciation to them for meeting with you. Save your real pitch for why you want to join their program for your letter of intent, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So that kind of goes into forecasts. So this is the application service that you apply to all accredited residency programs through for pharmacy. And registration, I've listed the website there. It is through the ASHP site, and it does open on November 3rd. All the materials for your application are going to be submitted through forecasts. Some of these application materials are going to apply to multiple programs or all programs, such as the general questions they're going to ask you. Your CV, which you're going to attach, is going to apply to all the programs. Letters of intent, you're going to want to customize to each program. You're going to submit them as an attachment, and then you can choose which programs to send them to. Again, this is a great place to utilize those showcase notes that you wrote down. And you can get examples of letters of intent online, and your schools of pharmacy probably have good sources to review those for you as well. Like again, each one's going to be customized, and you can talk about people that you've met and things you were excited about talking to them about. Transcripts are going to be submitted to all programs. We only do pharmacy transcripts. I don't know of any programs that request anything before pharmacy school. You need to get one copy to forecasts, and this needs to be requested pretty much as soon as you get back from mid-year. Depending on your school, there can be delays, so you want to make sure that you're on top of that. When forecast ends and the deadlines have fallen, you can still submit your transcripts as well as your letters of recommendation, but it's up to the program whether or not they're going to accept that as an on-time application or not. So it's just better to be safe than sorry and get all of those items in on time. So that brings up references. You're going to send a request through email to whoever you want to get that, to send that reference for you, but you want to be checking with people now if they are willing to do that, so that they're expecting that's coming and they know how many references they're writing for people. So that's just a courtesy. That's something you should be doing now. And again, it's important that you check with those individuals before sending that email through the system. You don't want to surprise anybody. You cannot see the references when they send them, but you can see that they're completed so that you know your application's complete. And you can have the same references sent to all the programs, or you can pick and choose which references you send on which programs. If you're applying to different types of programs, you may want to send them different references. There's also really good tutorial resources available on the ASHP website for forecasts and how to submit these items. So the forecast program is a requirement for ASHP accredited programs, so unless they're in pre-candidate status, they're going to be on forecast, and that's how they're going to receive their materials. All of the programs have different due dates, so that's something important to look into. You'll be able to get most of that information at mid-year. Most of the program flyers are going to have their due dates, so it's important to know the due dates of the programs that are important to you. And as I've kind of mentioned, do not wait until the last minute. There are things that you need to be doing now, like asking people if they want to write references for you and to get your business cards printed. Right after mid-year, you're going to want to make sure you request the transcripts right away. And then even when you're completing the applications, try not to wait till the last minute. The worst thing that could happen is you wait till the last minute at midnight to push that button, and then there's 1,000 other students trying to do that and the system locks up and it doesn't get in. So make sure that you complete it in a good time frame, and make sure that you submit it before the due date. Don't let that be why your application was delayed. So forecast pricing, you can apply for your first 4 programs for $100, and then each additional program after that is going to be $35. So really it's completely to your benefit to find 4 programs to apply to. So even if you're not set that there's 4 solid programs you want to go to, that's what Midyear's for, to talk to them. Find programs that may spark your interest a little, and then hopefully you can interview with them and find out if that's a program that's really good for you. I can tell you right now, when I went to the showcase, there was one program I really had my eye on, and after interviews, my perceptions completely changed of the programs I had interviewed with, and I ended up ranking a list that was completely different than what I expected. So keep an open mind and apply to places you think might be a good fit. So that's that. Registering for the match, I'm sorry, I skipped over this here. So 2014 specifics. There was 5,788 applicants, and each applicant on average applied to 9.5 programs. So again, that's an average, that's why we got our little decimal point. And each person inked an average of 4 programs, which makes sense because you get those 4 programs in your initial fee. And there were over 3,500 available positions through about 1,700 programs. So there are a lot of positions available out there. It's still a highly competitive field, but just so you know, there is a lot to look at, and most of those programs will be there. So going into the match is separate from forecast, even though they're kind of integrated together. So there can be kind of some confusion with this. You have to register for the match separately. It's a $130 flat fee to register for the match. This is integrated through Forecast, so once you're registered with Forecast, you can go in, and usually there's a tab for you to register for the match. And when you register for the match, it's going to give you a National Matching Service applicant code number. And this needs to be done before you submit your applications, because just as the programs have numbers, you're going to have a number as well, and that's how the whole system kind of organizes itself. So you can register for Forecast without registering for the match if you're kind of undecided and you're gathering materials, but in order to submit those applications, you need to register for the match. Let's see. So the applicants submit rank order lists, and the programs submit rank order lists. This is after, of course, all the interviewing has been done. You need to rank these programs in order of what's important to you. You'll kind of hear strategies on how to rank programs and what might be a good idea. Rank them to what's important. Rank your number 1 as the program you would most want to go to. Rank your number 2 as the program you would go to after that. Don't try to play games with this, because the system really is designed to match the candidate to the best program. The programs are going to submit similar lists with the candidates that they interviewed. And obviously, if you rank a program 1 and they rank you 1, then that's a match. If we're going down the list, they place emphasis on the applicant's rank order list, so they look at their ranking and then match it to the schools, not vice versa, which makes a small difference. And it's a computer algorithm that matches this. You can get more information on this computer algorithm and the specifics of this if you're interested, which sometimes it helps calm some nerves, at the Mysteries of the Match session at Midyear. They kind of run through some scenarios and show you exactly how the program works. It kind of gives you some tips, like make sure that you apply to all the programs you want to go to. Don't just list one program. If you are willing to go to other programs thinking that that's going to make it a stronger match, it won't. It just makes it more likely that you won't match. So that's a good program to go to. Again, that's Mysteries of the Match. Programs and applicants are notified of the results by email on match day. So match important dates. Your rank lists are due this school year on March 6th. And that's pretty set in stone. So again, if you can submit them earlier, that's a good idea, because all, how many thousands of students are applying are all going to be trying to get their list in by that deadline, so make sure that you don't get caught in a technical glitch. And then match day is going to be March 20th this year, and that's when all the programs and the students will be notified of their match results. So 2014 match statistics, just to give you an idea, just over 5,000 applicants are enrolled, and just over 4,000 submitted match lists. So about 1,000 students did not submit match lists for whatever reason, and about 2,600 applicants successfully matched to programs. So again, you can see it's a lot of students, but it's still very competitive. So at this time, Alice and I can answer any questions you might have.
This is Brittany. I'm just going to add one little trick that I used that kind of piggybacks on what Allison and Jessica both said when meeting at the showcase. I actually had each of my questions for each program that I was meeting with on just a one sheet of paper. I typed them out and had room to write below, so I was able to say, okay, I am at Cabell Huntington's booth. These are the things I want to know. And then once I got done with that, then I went over to the side and wrote my answers and just quick little notes on that paper. So that way I had one sheet of paper for each booth that I met with to kind of keep track with and, you know, organize myself, because it's really chaotic. So whatever method you can come up with to keep yourself organized will be to your benefit.
Yeah, that's a great point, because you can get a lot out of the showcase if you're organized and ready for it. But it's really, you're only going to get out what you put in. So if you come out of it and you don't really even remember everyone you talked to and you don't remember the details, then, you know, it was kind of a waste of time for you. So definitely do whatever you have to do to take time and get organized to really make the most out of it.
Do we have any questions for our speakers?
This is Allison again. I was just going to add, my last piece of advice is honestly just to trust your gut and to write down your gut feeling too. If you talk to a program and you just, and if this doesn't excite you, then that's okay. Trust how you feel talking to the programs, and just trust your vibe and your instinct, and write it down and remind yourself, so you can remind yourself later of what you didn't quite like, or you just got a weird feeling, or you got a great feeling. So definitely just go with your gut and you'll be okay.
That's really great advice. And you kind of think in your mind like, oh, residents are all the same and they're all trying to do the same thing. You'll be amazed at the personality of each program when you talk to them. So it's definitely something to try to think about if you could see yourself fitting in with those people.
Do you guys have any questions?
Opportunity to ask questions going once, going twice. Okay, thank you all for attending tonight. Thank you, Allison and Jesse, both for agreeing to speak to us tonight. Our next residency preparation series will feature Stephanie Giancola from St. Mary's Medical Center. She's a resident there, and myself. And we'll be discussing the crunch time. So what do you need to do now that you're back from midyear? We hope to see you there, and tell your friends if they missed tonight's session that this session will be posted shortly on WVSHP's website, and they can watch it there. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you all very much.